Have you ever wondered why some of the most imaginative cartoons of the 80s and 90s vanished before they even had a chance to breathe? These shows burned bright, then disappeared like signals lost in deep space. Some say they were too ambitious. Some say they were too strange for their time. Yet their shadows still ripple through animation today. Get ready to rediscover worlds the world forgot. Number 12. Visionaries, 1987. Visionaries, 1987 arrived with the reputation of a daring experiment. It was a show that mixed medieval fantasy with futuristic technology and pushed far beyond typical toy-based storytelling. Audiences who discovered it felt like they were stepping into a mythic realm mapped through holograms and prophecy. The world of Prismos unfolded with knights channeling animal spirits and magic reborn in a shattered society. At first, it seemed like the next great animated phenomenon. Something bold, something different, something destined to last. But here is the twist. The moment Visionaries tried to offer a deeper, lore-driven narrative, the studio felt uneasy. Some whispered that executives feared younger audiences would not follow such dense world-building. Others believed the hologram technology used in merchandising cost too much and brought the series under financial scrutiny. There were quiet rumors that the darker tone worried sponsors. Magic, ruins, beast transformations, things that felt too intense for broadcasters of the time. Whatever the truth, the storm began behind closed doors. Production challenges mounted. Animators struggled to match deadlines because the action sequences were unusually complex. Writers were told to simplify scripts, then to slow the story, then to shorten it entirely. By the time fans began to connect with the characters, the studio had already lost confidence. Visionaries was cut down after only a handful of episodes, leaving major plot lines unresolved. One day it was here, the next day it was gone. Yet its legacy refused to fade. Decades later, collectors resurfaced lost story outlines, and fans built online communities preserving every detail. Some creators in modern fantasy animation cite Visionaries as a secret influence. The show became a ghost in animation history, a reminder of what happens when ambition rises before the world is ready. Visionaries ended too soon, but its spirit still calls from a forgotten future. Number 11. The Pirates of Dark Water, 1991. The Pirates of Dark Water. 1991 carried a reputation as one of the most atmospheric and daring animated adventures of its decade. It began with a world swallowed by an ever-spreading substance known only as dark water, a toxic force that devoured ships, towns, and entire kingdoms. Into this doomed world stepped Ren, a young hero searching for 13 mystical treasures that could restore his world before everything drowned in darkness. From the first episode, the Eye series felt like a bold, animated epic carved from ancient fear. But studio panic crept in early. Some whispered that the world of Myr was too bleak for children. Others claimed the budget was spiraling because each episode demanded massive world building. Strange creatures, distorted landscapes, storm-soaked seas. Every frame required more detail than the studio expected. Broadcasters grew nervous. They wanted a lighter tone, brighter colors, faster humor. Yet the creators refused to abandon the grim beauty of their world, and that decision placed the series on a dangerous path. Production delays became common. Whole sequences had to be redesigned because the art teams struggled to balance monstrous designs with broadcast-safe guidelines. Voice actors were asked to re-record scenes repeatedly. Meanwhile, the studio began trimming episodes, reducing resources, and pushing for story simplification. The roaring epic that was promised slowly tightened into uncertainty. Fans felt the shift. One season ended on a terrifying cliffhanger. As dark water spread faster than ever yet, the story never reached its conclusion. When the show was suddenly canceled, viewers were left drifting in unanswered questions, but its legacy endured. Artists, filmmakers, and game designers later cited its imagery as inspiration. The Pirate of Dark Water became a cult relic, whispering of a world swallowed by fear and fate. A reminder that some stories vanish not because they fail, but because they dare to go too deep. Number 10. Cops, 1988. Cops 1988 arrived with a reputation for intense, near-future action. It followed an elite team of cyber-enhanced officers battling a rising wave of high-tech criminals in Empire City. Kids tuned in for the futuristic gadgets, the robotic limbs, the laser-powered chases. At first it seemed unstoppable, a police adventure that balanced humor heroism and a surprisingly intricate sci-fi setting. But behind the neon lights, trouble was brewing. Some whispered that the show was too intense for its time. Networks worried that its depiction of crime syndicates, robotic violence, and futuristic weaponry pushed against broadcast standards. Several episodes underwent heavy editing. Action scenes were redrawn to minimize danger. Entire sequences were softened. A few scripts vanished entirely after executives raised concerns about realism and tone. The series began fighting battles off-screen long before the villains showed up on screen. Production teams were pushed to rework scenes again and again. Animation delays increased. Writers reported sudden restrictions that forced them to change character arcs at the last minute. Toy companies demanded lighter storylines, while broadcasters insisted on fewer weapons. The world the creators intended slowly thinned as the boundaries closed in. Eventually, despite strong fan support, the show was shortened, then canceled, leaving arcs unfinished and characters trapped in half-told stories. Yet Cops refused to disappear. It resurfaced on home media, then online, where a new generation discovered its raw creative energy. Number 9. Bots Master. 1993. Bots Master 1993 stormed onto screens with the reputation of being a wild, futuristic thrill ride. It blended robotics, parkour, street-level rebellion, and a pulsing techno rhythm that felt far ahead of its time. Kids who watched it felt like they were glimpsing a future where machines danced, fought, and evolved alongside humanity. The story followed Ziv Zulander, a genius inventor, who discovered that the corporation controlling his robotic creations was planning something sinister. What began as a playful tech adventure quickly shifted into a rebellion against a rising digital regime. But here is the twist. The show was considered too loud, too energetic, and too unpredictable for broadcasters who wanted safer, predictable programming. Some whispered that the mid-episode sequences, where viewers were encouraged to use special three-dimensional glasses, sparked concern among parent groups. Others claimed the studio feared the rebellious tone, a scrappy hero against a powerful corporation, robots breaking their programming, a looming revolution. For executives, this was a dangerous combination. Budget challenges hit early. The three-dimensional sequences demanded extra animation steps. Action scenes were redrawn again and again, because they pushed too close to content guidelines. Certain episodes were delayed, others were scaled back. The crew described the pace as relentless, because the show demanded constant creativity while facing constant restrictions. Ratings grew, but the conflicts grew faster. Then, without warning, Bots Master ended. No grand finale, no closure. Ziv and his robotic allies simply vanished from television, leaving fans stunned. But the show did not die. Years later, animation historians pointed to Bots Master as a secret ancestor of modern tech rebellion storytelling. Its energy, its ambition, and its warnings about unchecked technology all echo through later works. Bots Master is a reminder that sometimes the future arrives early and the world is not ready to face it. Number 8. Skeleton Warriors, 1994. Skeleton Warriors, 1994 arrived with the reputation of being bold, dark, and far heavier than typical animated shows of the era. It unfolded on the planet Luminaire, where a deadly power known as the Light Star Crystal split into fragments. One half empowered the noble Legion of Light, while the other half transformed Baron Dark into an undead warlord commanding an army of skeletal soldiers rising from the depths. From the very first episode, the series felt like an animated gothic epic, but its darkness became its greatest obstacle. Some whispered that the skeletal designs were too terrifying for networks. Parents complained that the imagery was too intense for children. Scenes of transformation battle and shadow-filled landscapes raised alarms among broadcasters who feared backlash. Rumors surfaced that executives requested softened designs, but the art team held firm. They believed that the horror-inspired aesthetic was the heart of the show. Behind the scenes, production grew turbulent. Animators struggled with the detailed armor and complex transformations. Writers were asked to tone down tension, only to have scenes restored, then toned down again. Meanwhile, merchandise sales were slower than expected, prompting the studio to question the show's future. The mood on set grew uncertain. Would the series continue its epic or collapse under pressure? Then the axe fell. Skeleton Warriors ended abruptly after only a brief run, leaving fans with unanswered questions and battles unfinished. Yet the legacy refused to crumble. Collectors cherished rare figures. Artists cited the show as a hidden inspiration for dark fantasy worlds that came later. Fans shared memories online, keeping the flame alive. Skeleton Warriors stands as a monument to ambition that dared to embrace shadow. A reminder that darkness in storytelling can illuminate truths bright worlds cannot. Number 7. Bionic 6, 1987. Bionic 6, 1987 entered the animation world with the reputation of being heartfelt, heroic, and technologically fascinating. It told the story of a family granted enhanced abilities after a dangerous scientific rescue mission. Instead of building a team of unrelated heroes, the creators built a family that fought threats together, combining emotional warmth with high-powered action. Viewers connected instantly because the show balanced intimate moments with wild, futuristic battles. But beneath its uplifting message, the show encountered storms. Some whispered that executives doubted whether audiences could handle a superhero family instead of the usual lone hero model. Others claimed the blend of family drama and advanced technology made sponsors uneasy. The concept of cybernetic enhancement raised debates among parent groups. Was it inspiring or frightening? The questions grew louder with each new episode. Production challenges piled on. Animators were pushed to deliver scenes with complex machinery and detailed suits. Writers struggled to keep scripts within shifting guidelines. Episodes were revised repeatedly. Toy companies wanted brighter designs. Broadcasters wanted softer conflict. The creative team wanted emotional depth. The result was constant tension behind the scenes. Eventually, the show was shortened. Story arcs were reduced. Some characters lost development, and when cancellation hit, it felt like an unfinished chapter ripped from a larger myth. Yet Bionic 6 did not vanish completely. Fans rediscovered it through home recordings and online archives. Newer creators acknowledged its influence on family-based superhero storytelling. The show became a quiet legend, a reminder that sometimes the most human stories are hidden inside the most futuristic worlds. Number 6. Mighty Orbots, 1984. Mighty Orbots, 1984 launched with the reputation of being visually stunning, imaginative, and ahead of nearly everything airing beside it. In an era flooded with robot-themed cartoons, this series dared to build a universe overflowing with cosmic threats, swirling galaxies, and heroic machines bonded not by programming but by friendship and emotion. Commander Rob and his team of Orbots formed a united force capable of stopping the sinister Shadow Force from plunging the universe into darkness. Each episode felt like a sweeping space opera where humor, light, and cosmic wonder collided. But here is the twist. Mighty Orbots flew too close to trouble. Some whispered that a competing toy company viewed the show as a threat and began raising legal concerns regarding similarities to other robotic franchises. Others claimed the networks feared the show looked too Japanese-inspired at a time when foreign animation styles were not widely embraced by American executives. The art direction was bold. The designs were intricate, and for some broadcasters that boldness was unsettling. Behind the scenes, the creators worked through heavy pressure. Episodes demanded intense detail. Backgrounds glowed with cosmic color. Action scenes required multiple layers of animation to achieve their fluid, dynamic movement. Staff reported exhausting schedules as they tried to meet expectations without sacrificing quality. Meanwhile, the legal tensions grew stronger. Toy licensing deals stalled. Merchandising plans collapsed. The show found itself caught between legal storms and studio hesitation. The cancellation struck like a meteor. One season, no resolution, no grand farewell. Yet the legacy of Mighty Orbots did not fade. Animators praised it for its fluidity and ambition. Animation historians called it one of the most beautiful but tragically brief series of its era. Fans resurrected it online, where they shared rare episodes and restored scenes. Mighty Orbots remains a fallen star burning brightly in memory, a reminder that sometimes brilliance becomes a target and innovation pays a heavy cost. Number 5. Exo Squad, 1993. Exo Squad 1993 arrived with the reputation of being shockingly mature for a weekday animated series. It told a sweeping war story across the solar system, following soldiers in mechanized suits, fighting against a rebellion that threw humanity into crisis. Instead of simple good versus evil, the show explored themes of oppression, identity, rebellion, and sacrifice. For young viewers, it felt like stepping into a world where consequences were real and battles had weight. But its ambition frightened decision-makers. Some whispered that executives feared the series was becoming too realistic, too emotional, too willing to portray the cost of war in ways that animated shows rarely attempted. Parent groups raised concerns about intensity, battles, loss, moral conflict. The studio demanded adjustments, tone reductions, script edits. In some episodes, entire scenes were reanimated to soften impact, yet the story kept pushing toward depth and complexity. Behind-the-curtain production teams faced tremendous strain. The mech battles required precise choreography. Background artists crafted entire planetary colonies from scratch. Writers juggled overlapping story arcs that grew more ambitious than anything airing at the time. Toy companies celebrated the series, but networks remained uneasy. Were children ready for something that resembled an animated war drama rather than a simple adventure show? Then the cancellation came in the middle of rising momentum. The third season planned to conclude the saga, but never reached production, leaving arcs unresolved and fans heartbroken. Yet the legend of Exo Squad continued. It became a whispered influence on modern military-themed animated series. Critics later praised its bravery, calling it a series that respected young viewers instead of underestimating them. Exo Squad stands today as a monument to courage in storytelling, proof that animation can hold truths as heavy as any live-action epic. Number 4. Gargoyles, 1994. Gargoyles, 1994 burst into the animation world with a reputation for being dark mythic and unlike anything Disney had produced before. Instead of bright kingdoms and cheerful tunes, it offered a world forged in ancient curses, moonlit tragedy, and stone warriors who awoke at night to protect a city that feared them. It blended Shakespearean drama with mythology, science fiction, and urban mystery. For many viewers, it felt more like an animated Gothic epic than a children's series, but behind its brilliance, storms raged. Some whispered that its tone unsettled executives. Too brooding, too adult, too philosophical. Networks worried about episodes dealing with lost destiny and betrayal. Certain parent groups complained about the intensity of the battles and the haunting designs of the Gargoyle clan. Meanwhile, the studio feared the show appealed more to older viewers than to the young audience they expected. Production strain deepened. The animation demanded detail far beyond typical television quality. Stone textures, wings unfolding, night skies glowing with neon and shadow. Writers crafted complex arcs weaving romance, tragedy, and legend. But as costs rose and pressure mounted, executives demanded shifts, lighter episodes, less serialized storytelling, a slower pace. The creative team fought to preserve the heart of the show, but the walls kept closing in. Then the show ended far too soon. A later season continued under new direction, but without the original creative force, it lost its soul. The storylines that once soared grew fragmented, yet the legacy did not die. Fans kept the flame alive through conventions, fanworks, and archival restorations. Modern creators credited Gargoyles as a groundbreaking influence that proved animation could reach emotional heights rarely attempted on television. Gargoyles remains a legend carved in stone, a reminder that great stories sometimes fall before reaching their rightful future. Number 3. Silver Surfer, 1998. Silver Surfer 1998 entered the animated world with the reputation of being ambitious, philosophical, and visually groundbreaking. It followed Norrin Radd, who sacrificed everything to save his world, becoming the cosmic herald of Galactus. The series embraced existential questions, cosmic dangers, and sweeping journeys across galaxies painted with surreal colors and dreamlike movement. For many viewers, it felt less like a superhero show and more like a living cosmic poem drifting through space and fate. But the ambition spawned conflict. Some whispered that executives feared the tone was too meditative for younger audiences. Episodes focused on destiny, sacrifice, loss, and the weight of cosmic power. Networks pushed back against scenes they considered too contemplative or too intense. Legal issues with character rights caused additional chaos, forcing entire arcs to be rewritten or abandoned. An internal struggle erupted between creative vision and corporate boundaries. Production challenges soon followed. Animators worked under relentless pressure to deliver cosmic landscapes shimmering with detail. Writers constructed a serialized universe, but faced sudden restrictions that shattered planned storylines. Voice sessions were redone. Episodes were delayed. Scenes were redrawn to avoid legal or tonal disputes. Despite its beauty, the series found itself drifting into turbulence. When cancellation struck, the show ended mid-arc, leaving story threads scattered through the cosmos. Yet Silver Surfer refused to fade. Fans revived lost scenes and preserved production sketches. Modern animation scholars pointed to the show as a pioneer of cosmic storytelling. Its influence echoed through later space-based series and superhero epics. Silver Surfer stands today as a cosmic ghost, a reminder that some stories fall not because they fail, but because they dare to chase infinity. Number 2. SWAT Kats, The Radical Squadron, 1993. SWAT Kats, The Radical Squadron. 1993 soared onto screens with the reputation of being fast, rebellious, and wildly inventive. It followed T-Bone and Razor, two former pilots turned vigilante heroes who used advanced aircraft and daring tactics to protect Megacat City from monstrous threats. With its heavy metal energy and breakneck action, the show felt like an adrenaline surge brought to life. Kids viewed it as one of the coolest and boldest series of the era. But danger began. Behind the scenes, some whispered that the intensity of the battles made networks nervous. Fast aerial fights, exploding villains, high-stakes action. Executives feared backlash from parent groups who complained that it was too violent. Others claimed the show overshadowed toy sales because it was too focused on story instead of merchandise. Sponsors grew uneasy. Meetings turned tense. The show faced more pressure with each passing episode. Production teams felt the squeeze. Animators were told to reduce intensity. Writers were told to soften conflict. Episodes were rewritten and delayed. Creative ideas were trimmed. The more the studio tried to restrain the show, the more its identity was threatened. Finally, resources were slashed. A second season ended abruptly. A third season was planned, then quietly erased. Yet fans refused to let SWAT Kats disappear. Decades later, it resurfaced through conventions, fan movements, and online archives. A revival attempt sparked interest, proving its legacy still burned bright. SWAT Kats remains one of the greatest what-if stories in animation history, a symbol of raw, creative energy cut down before reaching full flight. A reminder that sometimes the skies close, not because the wings fail, but because the world is afraid of their speed. Number 1. Samurai Jack, 1991. Original concept run. Samurai Jack, 1991. Original concept run emerged before the later refined version that arrived in the next decade. This early incarnation carried a reputation for being artistic, experimental, and deeply atmospheric. It followed a lone warrior flung across time, battling creatures born from darkness while searching for a path back to his past. Though the fuller version gained fame, the early concept run existed in a shorter broadcast window, leaving a haunting mark on animation history. This version leaned heavily into silence movement and visual storytelling. Instead of constant dialogue, it used sweeping landscapes, shifting shadows, and poetic battles to reveal emotion. But this artistic approach unsettled broadcasters. Some whispered that executives believed it was too quiet, too slow, too dramatic for young audiences. Parent groups raised concerns that the intense, stylized battles were too frightening. Sponsors wanted more humor, more talking, more predictability. Production strains added pressure. Each scene required detailed choreography. Backgrounds were crafted with painterly care. Animators were pushed to deliver cinematic quality far above television standards. Writers faced constant pushback over pacing. Episodes were edited, re-edited, and sometimes discarded. The creative team tried to protect the vision, but the shifting demands created an uphill battle. Then the early run ended, short, fragmented, unfinished, yet the legend survived. When the later version arrived years later, fans remembered the original shadow-soaked concept. It inspired modern creators to push animation toward cinematic artistry. Samurai Jack remains a testament to vision, a reminder that sometimes the most profound stories arrive before their time and vanish before viewers understand their power. These forgotten shows prove that some of the greatest stories flicker only for a moment before fading into shadow. They were bold, they were risky, they were ahead of their time. Which of these lost worlds do you want to see return? Tell us in the comments. Like and subscribe to help uncover more hidden legends still waiting to be rediscovered.